Most heartfelt greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlethems. I eagerly welcome you to Sturgeons' premier station, DuskLight Radio, hosted by yours truly, the incorporeal, coruscating, forever wandering Everett J. Blackwell. Perhaps you know of us Blackwells. For a time, we hosted the bicentennial Crawfish Derby tournament in Sturgeon. Every year, Brother Eduardo de Santos Blackwell would enter with his Japanese spider crab Benny, and every year, there'd be another casualty. No, not by Benny, no. He was always fed special meat before the tournament. Or rather, people would be so terrified by his big legs and the way he hissed at you for a hug, they'd run away and ultimately cause accidents of their own doing. Now, I'm sure a big crustacean looking like a spider and entrapping its victims in a web of spit and digestive juices is scary, but he needed a hug, even if he may or may not have been a spider crab. Some people, let me tell you. Anyway, I'm DuskLight's main and most fabulous half-dead host. My job at this fine radio station is to bring you some of the most twisted, interesting, and downright bizarre tales that I and my wonderful many-legged runners collect from the far corners of Sturgeon and beyond. Some of them will make you laugh, some will make you cry, and some decide they want to start a glitch channel. We don't often catch glimpses of the individual glitch stars these days. They're much better at hiding when they hone in on their own personal signal. But Sturgeon still houses glitch members from time to time. They usually phase in at inopportune moments, demand something arbitrary from the nearest person they can find. This could be as innocuous as a droplet of your blood, excluding AB positive, as we all know, or as inconsequential as your most celebrated month from the year 2008. It's best to give it to them. Refusal is unbecoming of our citizens and, well, they may glitch back into your life and seek revenge when you least expect it, bringing with them a version of you that you'd rather not see. A version that proudly displays traits and accomplishments you'd never count among your accolades. Not quite a doppelganger, not quite its own person. Something insidious. The glitch channels are far easier to find. You'll see them pop up under another name, one rapidly gaining traction in online circles, and perhaps one we'll discuss here at a later date. You'll know them as the Backrooms. Let it be known, listeners, for all the intrigue, solitude, and adventure the Backrooms hold, I've never met a glitch star happy to return back there when their travel time is up. The fear in their eyes when wrenched into the foreboding depths of incongruity and repetition is no different to that of a small animal when its predator hones in on it. No way out, no escape. Only the jaws of infinity await them. It's time to introduce our next story for this evening. Now, I should warn you folks, this story contains elements of domestic abuse and sexual involvements which may not be appropriate for all ages, and if you find yourself uncomfortable with the subject matter presented, maybe watch a different DuskLight video. We respect trigger warnings in this household. This story comes to us from a new rider that my many-legged runners encountered on a clear, starry night. It's called, I Played a Text-Based Adventure Game on the Dark Web, and I Can't Undo the Things I Did. And it certainly lives up to that promise. It comes to us from what can only be described as a pure, eldritch beast capable of weaving some of the most disturbing tales I have ever seen. Wendigo Roar. Now, this isn't only the superbly spine-tingling and scintillating tale of wonder he has for us. No, there are many more at his subreddit linked in the description, and I'd be ever so grateful if you would check it out and say hi. We like when people say hi to the writers. It helps cover the emotional toll of losing another many-legged runner. Wendigo Roar decided to take one or two of them away for feeding. And it ain't the breeding season yet for the many-legged runners, you see, so we have to make do. You can find Wendigo Roar's Twitter and Patreon linked below as well. Special thanks must be given first to Mandy Mo for rendering yours truly in the beauteous image you see when you look at our page. Next, DuskLight bows at the altar of Trevor Henderson, the man behind Siren Head, for allowing DuskLight to use some of the images he's captured of various abominations. Our cast today features our Purple Prince of Perpetual Pestilence, TJ Lee, all hail his janitorial wisdom. And of course, lest we forget, some of the music you hear in our videos is provided by the Dark Somnium with gracious thanks. With that, the sun has set and dusk has crawled into the studio once more. Whether you're working, prepping to sleep, or evading the formless void that will one day consume us all, Blackwell is here to soothe your ears and captivate your soul. Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath. The scene has been set and the light is on. It's time to walk towards it. I spend a lot of time on Reddit. I'm sure you do too. I'm on a lot of video game subs, and in particular ones about text-based games. I'm talking games like Zork. I wasn't alive when Zork came out, but I got really into it in high school. When I made it to college, I took an even deeper dive, playing all the sequels, all the knockoffs, and every shitty game that people had cobbled together and released online. I had to refocus a bit, adding work on top of college courses so I could afford my shoebox apartment. But eventually I came across a post called Apartment Complex. Not a super promising name, but I was bored, and it was free. And the fact that it was hosted on some weird site that I couldn't access from regular browsers kind of appealed to me. It added an element of mystery, so I opened a Tor browser, entered the link, and got to a profile creation page. Basic stuff, really. Username, preferred resolution, etc. It didn't ask for any personal info, so I kept going. The screen went blank, and then a text box opened up.
Welcome to Apartment Complex. You've been assigned your very own apartment building to run. But this isn't any apartment building, because the tenants are going to be experiencing some pretty scary ordeals. You get to decide what happens next. Will your tenants survive? Will you accidentally butcher them all? The power is in your hands. Are you ready? Yes. No.
Why not? I figured. I typed in a Y. More text appeared.
Excellent! We'll start you off with an easy management level. You have 6 tenants, numbered 1 to 6. None of them know each other well. Enter a number to learn more about a tenant and begin to make decisions.
I grabbed a 6-sided die off my desk and rolled it. 3. 3, I typed.
Intriguing choice! The tenant in apartment 3 is Sherry. She's 19 and a sophomore in college. All her friends know her to be outgoing and flirty, and she brings new guys back to her apartment multiple times a week. She doesn't want a commitment. She enjoys sex, but mostly she just likes not being alone. It's possible it's related to how she was repeatedly abandoned by foster parents. Tonight, she brought home a young man named Thad. She plans to have sex with Thad, and he will pressure her not to use a condom. She will say yes, but she doesn't want to scare him off. But you can help her out. Should tonight be the night she stands up to Thad and tells him she won't sleep with him without protection at the risk of spending the night alone? Yes or no?
I didn't realize this game would be so domestic soap opera? Whatever, I thought. Let's see how this plays out. Yes, I typed.
Intriguing choice! Thad and Sherry start to get hot and heavy. When they are naked on her couch, Thad starts to try penetrating her, but Sherry stops him and says he needs to use a condom. Thad complains that it doesn't feel as good. Sherry tells him that it's more important that both of them are protected from STDs. She's feeling a little tense. Thad calls her a whore and a tease and throws his clothes back on. Sherry cries as Thad goes to storm out. Unfortunately, Sherry's door won't open. Thad checks and the door isn't locked, but it refuses to open. Furious, Thad storms back to where Sherry is still lying naked on the couch and crying, and begins to scream at her. Would you like to continue making decisions for Sherry, or try another tenant? 1 for Sherry, 2 for new tenant.
This game was weird and pretty retro, but I also found myself pretty intrigued by Sherry and Thad's story. The clunky stories in these games had a certain charm that made them feel very engaging. Fuck it. Let's keep going. 1, I typed.
Intriguing choice. Thad continues to scream at Sherry, who can't stop crying. She's afraid he might hit her. Thad hasn't decided if he will or not, but plans to let his anger and lack of concern for Sherry as a human being guide his behavior. If things continue as they are, Thad will most likely beat Sherry to the point she will need to be rushed to the emergency room. Should Thad be stopped? Yes or no?
Fuck, I mumbled out loud to myself. This got intense. Yes, I typed.
Intriguing choice. A ceiling tile falls off. The edge cuts across Thad's jugular. Blood gushes everywhere. He is dead in seconds.
What the fuck? I said to myself. This game's whack. The text continued to appear.
Sherry is horrified. Much of the blood sprayed all over her. She's so scared she starts to shut down. Sherry won't be taking any more actions for a while. Choose a tenant. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6.
Damn, I thought. Looks like I'm not going to finish this game with a decent score. Keep plugging away though, I guess. I rolled the die again. 5. I typed it in.
Intriguing choice. The tenant in apartment 5 is Clyde. He is 35 and works at the local First State Bank. His hobbies include snowboarding, tennis, recreational murder, 90s sitcoms, and fishing. He's home alone tonight after his girlfriend, Alicia, texted him and told him she was leaving him for his brother. He bought a gallon of chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream and is working his way through that and the 3rd season of Frasier. He feels the itch to strangle someone. It's been a while and he's trying to kick the habit, but the deep well of emotion seems to be so deep that ice cream alone can't fill it. He's hoping to quench the urge with a TV binge, but just as he's settling in, he starts to smell gas. Should he investigate? Yes or no?
Not investigating would be boring, so of course, I typed in a yes.
Intriguing choice. Clyde gets off the couch and follows his nose to the kitchen, where a heavy propane smell is blasting out of one of the burners. He's familiar enough with gas leaks to know that he's one spark away from Clyde flambe. Should Clyde leave or keep sucking up the fumes? 1, Clyde leaves, or 2, Clyde stays.
Seems weird to release the murdered, I thought. But it would be boring just to gas him to death. I type a 1.
Intriguing choice. Clyde exits his apartment and heads down the stairs to the front door. When he makes it to the floor below his, he sees that the stairs are blocked by fallen ceiling tiles. There are stairs on the opposite side of the floor. On the way, he would pass 2 other apartments, which would likely have phones to call the fire department to handle the gas leak. Should he stop at the first apartment, 1, the second apartment, 2, or take the stairs, 3?
1, I typed.
Intriguing choice.
That was it. No more text. What the hell? I said it under my breath. And then there was a knock at my door. I froze.
Hey, anyone home?
A voice called from the other side of my door.
My name's Clyde. I live on the floor above you. My phone ain't working and my apartment smells like gas. Can I borrow your phone?
I sat as still as I could, making no sound.
Seriously, it's an emergency. I'm pretty sure I heard some noise in there. I need help.
On my screen, I saw more text pop up.
Should Clyde keep trying the first apartment, 1, try the next apartment, 2, or take the stairs on the far end of the floor, 3?
As gently as I could, I pressed 2. The clack of the keys sounded like a gunshot in my head.
Whatever, asshole. I know you're home. Hope you enjoy being a piece of shit.
Clyde said. Then I heard his footsteps go down the hall. The apartment building I'm in is new and pretty well insulated, but I could faintly hear knocking on the apartment down the hall from me. I knew a college girl lived there. Hopefully she isn't home. Wait. College girl? No, it couldn't be. Text started to fill up my screen again.
Clyde went to the next apartment and knocked on the door. He heard sobbing from inside. When the tenant inside didn't open the door, he tried the knob. It turned, but the door wouldn't budge. It looked like it was misaligned, and with the heat wave, the wood had swollen and jammed the door in place.
Suddenly, I heard a smash from outside. I tore my eyes to look at my front door, but it was still solidly shut. The sound had come from down the hall. I looked back at my screen.
Clyde used his shoulder to slam the door and it popped open. He stepped in, calling to whoever was in the apartment. Walking further in, he saw a shocking sight. A man on the ground, his neck slashed open. A ceiling tile on the ground next to him. On the couch, a completely naked young woman. And, covering everything, a massive splatter of blood. Clyde grinned. Are you going to help Sherry? Leave your apartment and go to hers? Or do nothing while Clyde murders her? 1.
This was so messed up. I couldn't just let someone murder my neighbor, even if I barely knew her. But I was terrified. I got up, ran to my kitchen, grabbed the biggest knife I could find, then went to my door. I took 3 deep breaths to steady myself. Then I unlocked the door, threw it open, and ran out into the hall. I looked over to where the other apartment was, and I could see where the door had been broken in. I ran as quietly as I could over there, and when I reached the door, stopped short and stuck my head around the door frame to see what was going on. Unfortunately, I couldn't see what was happening from where I was. I crept in as stealthily as I could. The first thing that hit me was the bitter stench of blood. Then I got close enough to see what was happening. Sherry was on her back on the couch, Clyde leaning over her with his hands around her throat. She was scratching at him, but the blood made everything slick and it looked like her nails were sliding around more than doing damage. I ran up to them and drove my knife straight into Clyde's back. He roared and whirled around. "You bastard!" he yelled and dove at me, tackling me to the ground. He started pummeling me with his fists. There was little I could do to stop him. With each blow, I felt myself getting weaker, my vision growing darker. And then Clyde screamed. I focused as best I could. Above Clyde, Sherry was raising the knife for another blow. She stabbed Clyde over and over until he collapsed on top of me. And then she stabbed him some more. I screamed at her to stop, to let me up, and eventually I broke through her terror. She helped me push his body off. I threw a blanket around Sherry and then I called the cops. We spent a lot of time going over our stories with them. I left out the dark web stuff because I didn't want to get in trouble. Finally, the cops left. Sherry went to go stay with her parents and I went back to my apartment. When I got back, words were flashing on my screen.
Remember, everything that happened tonight was your choice.
And below that,
we hope you play Apartment Complex again.
sometimes I pine for the simple days of old school video games, to a time before cheap jump scares and even cheaper thrills. Then I hear about something like this, and I'm kinda glad they're not as in vogue anymore. I'll stick to my little emotional indie darling games, thank you very much. Anyone else played Mutazione yet? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of our other transmissions. We're adding them regularly, and we'd love to have you as part of the DuskLight family by subscribing, hitting the bell of intrigue, it's just a normal bell, but adding stuff like that is nice, and leave a comment with stories you'd love for my many-legged runners to find. DuskLight now has a Twitter account, and we're hoping to put unusual lore and use it for community interaction while we continue our journey to get monetized here. Please consider checking us out over at DuskLight Radio, where we may even be talking about projects in advance of release. Dedication needs to be rewarded, and we thank more and more of our loyal listeners for joining these premieres each time. This time we give thanks to Waffle Pie, Isaac Pierce, Lady Nevermore, Laren Listens, Matt Vasquez, Ryan Kettles, Jason and Gamma, our terrifying twosome at every premiere, and Penny Tails Up for giving us their valuable time. Want to get a shout out? Be sure to join our premieres or leave a comment below and I'll do my darndest to find the ones that stand out. I hope we can continue this forward growth and spread our spores to the far corners of YouTube, infecting the airwaves with our intoxicating presence. When we hit 500, we got something wonderful planned. And one last time, listeners, close your eyes and breathe with me. Remember, no matter how bad things are, how cruel people can be, and how heavy your shoulders may feel with the weight of the world bearing down on them, DuskLight will always be here to lift the load and provide you with some respite. Drink some water, watch a nature documentary, eat some takeout, and sleep on the cool side of the pillow. Start and end each day with kindness in your heart. You matter, you are loved, and every day is another chance. I'll see you again when the sun sets and dusk enters the station.